Nuno, welcome to South Summit. It's happy to have you here. I think it's the first time you join
Yep.
South Summit in Madrid. So
Many times in Madrid, first time at South Summit.
happy to have you on stage. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to build and build global giants out of Portugal. Feedzai is the leading risk ops platform tackling financial risk management. And you have clients a little bit all over the world. Right here in Spain, Santander, CaixaBank, Itaú in Brazil, Citibank in the US. And I also heard that the US Treasury is using your solution. So
Cannot confirm or deny.
yeah, okay. But tell us a little bit more. I mean, let's go back to basics. How did you start a global player out of Portugal? What were the basics to set it up?
I need a couple. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me. Really cool. I mean, one of my things in life is now to, help in whatever way I can build ecosystems out of, Portugal, Spain, and Europe in general, based on, what I've learned and where I am at my journey. So I think the first thing you have to have when you're starting a business that from whatever you are, that you want to be global is, you really have to want it to be global. When it was just three of us, we couldn't even afford a dog. We was basically saying, born international. That's what we were saying from the company from day one. And this was because myself and my co-founders, Paulo and Pedro, we've all actually, been out of Portugal for many years. And we actually decided to go back to Portugal to start the business. But I was in Germany at the operations center of the European Space Agency. Paulo was, he actually spent time with me there, and Pedro was a Fulbright scholar in Madison in the US. So when you have that kind of exposure to, the brightest rocket scientist in my case, or in this case, Pedro, the database builders in the US, you kind of build a level of confidence that you're not worse, you're not better, you're equal to any one of those. So you have this built-in confidence that you can do it. Then the location, you just pick one, right? And we like the food, we're Portuguese, and and there's a lot of engineering that we also knew was there, but wasn't being properly tapped into.
Yeah. So I know that you have a strong engineering team out of Portugal, but at this stage, you've been going at it for at least 10 years with the company and growing significantly. What stands out in 2023 in Portugal? I mean, what are the main key points that, you're a Portuguese-born unicorn, and why still Portugal being relevant in all these aspects?
I mean, when we were started back in 2011, so 12 years ago, I mean, there was no thing, such as, fundraising. There was no such thing as, there just wasn't a precedent, right? You fast forward to today, and what do you see? You see a lot of my US friends either moved or visit or know intimately. It's not only Portugal, Europe. Just 3 weeks ago, I was at an event between US folks and European folks in Marbella, and it was just a bunch of us, conference called Nobody, a bunch of us getting together. The reason why the conference is called Nobody is because actually you speak to everyone there, and there's actually everyone is somebody there, right? They've done businesses, sold them, and whatnot. So that didn't exist 10 years ago. That's number one. Then number two is you go around in many of these centers, and Lisbon, I think, being one of the best examples, and you see many international companies being actually started there. Entrepreneurs from other places start the businesses there. You see many US companies opening, not what used to be like call center centers, but primary knowledge development centers being opened there. That didn't exist 10 years ago. So today, I think the world fundamentally changed, and today it's a place with talent that can compete with any other place in the world.
Right. Well, it is attracting a lot of talent from all over the world now, moving to, as we know, to Lisbon. So a competitive ground for scale-ups. I mean, and Paris was mentioning Endeavor. Yesterday on this stage, there were two Endeavor board members, Endeavor Spain board members, Pablo Isla and Paul Gasol, very successful people. You're also part of the founding board of Endeavor Portugal. What made you at this stage in your life, in your career, to just support the launch of Endeavor in the neighbor country?
So I think it's all about where you are, right? So I mean, we built a company, for those of you that are not familiar, 700 people, company raised $300 million, 1.2 billion last valuation. It's now up from there. So we're quite strong, and we became, the leading, what we call risk ops vendor in the world, serving, some of the clients you mentioned, Europe, US, North America, Latin America, and Asia Pacific. So when you do that, I mean, hopefully you learn a few things throughout the way. And then a couple of years ago, I started making some investments, hopefully also, for everyone here, there's a piece of advice is, as you raise money, always take some liquidity out. It's very important. The market, as it's very clear right now, is not always up and to the right. So protect your downside, not too much, but a little bit. And, we've always done that. So there was an amount of liquidity. And, the other piece of advice is don't change your standards of living. You might go back to noodles and pasta. So we didn't do any of that. So there was, some money available, and I started, funding individually some companies. But it was completely random and, on-off, just to help folks. And then I realized some of them, actually grow, frankly, even faster than we did. And that's amazing. So what I thought is, okay, we've done this, let's give back in a way, which is, it's very, and I spent, from 2014 to 2021, I was in the US. It's actually very common there, this feeling of once you've made or once you've had a degree of success, you start to help others. They call it pay it forward. It was a foreign concept to me, and is you give not in return for anything, but because it's the right thing to do, and hopefully good stuff will happen out of that. And this is where where Endeavor comes into. It's an organization that, non-profit, completely altruistic. That is, successful people. Paul Gasol here in Spain, and others that, they just want to give back and share some of their learnings. And I think my view, comparing Europe and US, we don't do enough of that in Europe. There's not that spirit that much. In the US and in tech, there's a lot of that spirit. They're very competitive, but there's also this notion of giving back. So it's hopefully starting that and showing that, look, we've done this, we've funded these other businesses, they've grown, and do it in a more structured way, such as Endeavor's done. And I don't know how many countries they are, but I don't know, 20, 40, whatever.
40 plus, yeah.
Right, so it's to do it like that, and because that really feeds the cycle, of call it creative destruction, of creating value for society. And what I really wish is that people that graduate from colleges don't go and work for, I love the big banks, they're my clients, but don't go and work for a big bank. Start your own business, right? Start your own thing. Follow your passion, and hopefully, with help of others that have been there before, you'll be able to make, as they say, different mistakes, but hopefully you'll learn from some of that. That's why I joined Endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, if you hang out with Nuno long enough, you know that. And I saw you last year in an event where they're mostly ESA people from the European Space Agency, where Nuno used to work, and you invited everyone to quit their jobs and build their own business. So
same applies here. Quit your jobs and go start your own businesses.
And start your own company. Let's go back to the main challenges of building a world-class, specifically on product from a Southern European country. I mean, I know that I think it was a couple of years ago, Feedzai acquired Revlock, a Spanish company. I think it was right after the pandemic, 2021.
It was actually during the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, during the pandemic.
And you still have a team based out of Madrid, 50, 60 people.
Yep.
How was that integration culturally, alignment, and so forth?
So a couple of things there. So first, it really starts from this confidence I was telling earlier, that because we worked, myself and my co-founders, in the most demanding organizations, the European Space Agency, top universities in the US and whatnot, we really develop a strong belief that we are technically as good as anyone else out there. Not better, not worse, as good as. So having built that, then we decided, okay, what are we good at? And what we're good at is engineering and a little bit of product, but mainly engineering, really good. And that's European universities, the same here. in Spain, the same in Portugal. Really good engineering. I would argue actually better than some of what you see in North America, for example. What we don't have is things like they've taken decades to improve. Go to market, marketing, sales, financing, and whatnot. How to allocate capital, all those things. Mm-hmm. So what we've seen is the way we built the company was let's start it, the core engineering and all the engineering, the primary product creation, we'll do that out of Portugal. And then we will complement with talent from, the best talent in the world. So for instance, even today, we run marketing and finance in the company out of the United States, because where do you find the best marketeers for technology companies? In the United States, people that have IPO'd companies, right? They know what it is to build the positioning, the marketing to IPO company. So, but from engineering, I have no doubts, talent is, if not equal, better in some of these regions. And at the time, this company, as we're building, we're evolving from our positioning to a wider positioning as we scaled as a company. And we looked at the market, and there was a company here in Spain called Boogaloo that was actually changing their name to Revloc. 60-person company, they had raised, I think, 16 million. And Pablo and folks there, they had created an amazing piece of technology. Mm-hmm. World-class, top-notch piece of technology. What they hadn't do, they raised the last fund, 10 million, just before pandemic, and then lockdown came out. So they hadn't scaled the sales machinery, and that really hurt them, because they had a piece of technology, but they couldn't scale sales. In fact, their sales were flat to going down. Mm-hmm. And we said, look, what if we give you a platform? I can sell your product. I have a sales machine already built. I'll give you, but your technology is very, very good. So we did, to my knowledge, one of the few, if not the only one, where you have a company with, Spanish investors, like, I don't know if they're here, like Inveready and others, and then a Portuguese company with Portuguese and US investors. And we said, look, let's just, put it together. Yeah. It was beautiful. Pretty much everyone is still there 2 years after. So cultural alignment, very strong. Product positioning, very strong. Technology positioning, technology alignment, very, very strong. And, and then beautiful thing happened. In 12 months, we more than doubled our sales.
All right.
Right? So when you do that, it just shows that today, as a company, we became, in the last 3-4 years, the leading company in what we call risk, fraud, and compliance, risk ops. And the Revloc piece, which we now call digital trust, behavior biometrics, is a key component of that. So, there's not, it couldn't be, better to say, come to this event and say, look, it really works. We today have offices in engineering offices, Lisbon, Coimbra, Porto, and Madrid, right? Madrid being the second largest office we have.
All right, cool. We've looked at some numbers, looking at the Spanish and the Portuguese ecosystem, and even with a year like 2022, where we got interest rates going up, valuations coming down, it was still probably the second best year for VC investment in Spain, with about 4 billion, that's billion with a B, raised in 2022, versus Portugal, that did about slightly over 800 million same year. Different sizes, different markets.
Yeah, but the ratio seems about right.
Yeah. Is there anything there that we can do as Iberia, as a market, together with funds? You've done significant fundraising yourself. What's your take on that?
Look, I think the world recognizes. That's what I was saying. We're having this event in Marbella. And it was not because it was Marbella. It's like people really are genuinely interested in coming to this place. So I think, money or capital. They say, no one builds a road to your mousetrap if it's better. They actually do. So capital will search for the opportunities. I think what the numbers you've just quoted, what I think it shows is that the opportunities are there. In these countries, as much as there are in others. There's still a few hurdles we have to go through. One of the things that bothers me a lot is the fact that there are a number of companies being created out of Spain or out of Portugal, but for whatever reason, they raise funds from other U.S. funds and whatnot, and they changed their headquarters to the U.S. or to Luxembourg or to the U.K. We didn't. Our headquarters is still in Lisbon, and I don't see why we should. There's no benefit from that other than being convenient for, let's say, investors. It shouldn't be like that. It should be what's right for the management team and for the founding teams. So what I think it will happen is, as there's more experience that's being built, and I think in Endeavor Spain, you guys had something like the founders of the Cabify are already seeded. I don't know how many other companies, right? So we're doing so as that cycle progresses. It just basically any potential differences that might have existed over the last years, they just go away. So the beauty of it is just compete for talent, compete for ideas. Funding is available. Come on, I could raise 300 million from Lisbon. Everyone can raise money if you have a good idea. And the funding will go after you if you have, the really best talent. What you have to do and be obsessed about is create defensible primary knowledge. I'll put a stat to you guys. My company publishes more AI patents than all Portuguese universities combined. All Portuguese and Spanish universities combined. Than all other Portuguese and Spanish companies combined. That's a problem. I shouldn't be proud of that. We should have a lot more primary knowledge being created. A lot more, talking about only the area of AI where we build a lot of technology, but we should be producing for the investment that we're getting from European Union, for the investment we're getting, that our university we're getting, we should demand a lot more from them, and we should be producing a lot more primary knowledge. No. There's still a gap there.
So that connects also, and we have a few minutes left, to the pool of talent that you have in both in Spain and Portugal. I moved to Madrid more than 20 years ago. It's my second city. Love Madrid, and I see an opportunity to come closer. Cities like Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona, Porto. What else is there in terms of mobility? There's a lot of digital nomads, a lot of talent coming in, naturally now working remote. But what else could be done to change those numbers that you just...
So one of the things that we've done in our company that worked really well, and I think the same can be done any place, is before there was this thing like you cannot hire talent, I don't know, from the UK or from the US to go and work in your country because they would see you as a less developed country. In the last 5 years, it's the exact opposite. They actually, I hired some senior execs and they asked me during the interview process, can I actually move to Lisbon? And I'm like, sure, if you. So that's the thing that I think changed. So what I would say then as follow-up to that is be ambitious, bring the talent that doesn't exist here, for instance, product, marketing, financing talent. We don't have the pool of CFOs in our countries that have done the IPOs, that have managed, I don't know, one of my board members says, you're still a tiny business, which he is right, I am a tiny business compared to him, because his company has, sells, I think about 6 billion in sales a year, right? But he's on my board, so he's helping me get to that stage. So don't be afraid of reaching out to those folks and ask them to come and help you and even move to your country or move here or move to Lisbon so that, just don't be afraid and pitch them. They will come, actually. You'll be surprised. If you go and ask, I don't know, pick the best developer or the best marketeer in whatever area you work. Reach out to him or to her and say, look, I want to hire you, come to Madrid or come to Valencia or Barcelona. You'd be surprised at the answers that you might get. We were surprised in the beginning, we're not anymore. And in fact, even our clients, we do quarterly business reviews with our clients, and they say, can it be Lisbon or Porto? And I'm like, sure, yeah, why not? Yeah. So because people actually do want to come to these places.
Right. Yeah, it is it's having its own momentum, both countries right now. So we have time for one last question. And I'll leave you with this one because Spain just approved the startup law earlier this year in January 2023. It's been quite of a, both countries want to facilitate the creation and development of startups. How do you think, what involvement do you think founders should have on those? And should they be heard? And how can they help build these laws?
Well, I asked you not to ask me that, but fine. So as politicians go, it's a complete shit show. That's my view. There's a lot of work to be done. It's a shit show. Come on, you guys can clap to that. There's a lot of work to be done. I think the biggest problem is actually education. They don't know. They don't know what stock options mean. In Portugal, they just started something that really pissed me off, which was they approved the law of stock options, but it said, if you leave the country for a period of time, you don't have the incentive. And I said, you're a fucking idiot, because I mean, these people need to leave the country to go and grow the business. You know, they might need to spend a year in the US. So that you mean you're cutting them off that incentive? That's just dumb. And then the other one they had was, oh, this only goes until companies when they have this size. I was like, you're idiot number two, because what you're telling is sell the companies when they're small, because otherwise it's going to take you long to get the benefit. But guess what? They actually listened when I said that very publicly and very loudly, and in these terms I just used. So, you know, they passed the law, but then the president said, I'm going to promulgate or approve the law, but there are these two recommendations you have to take into account. So don't be afraid of speaking your mind from the heart. No, not because you want to gain something. That law, I will not be, because it's you know, my company is there already, I will not be subject, you know, I'm not going to benefit from that law. This is for future companies. Right. So don't be afraid of saying it and educating politicians there. There's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nuno. Thank you for being here.